What if overnight you and your staff had to sell machinery from your home office? Wow, what a start to the session, because I bet you there's a few of you out there who have got that challenge right now. And I've got some of my leadership team here today to have a good conversation about some things that we've put in place over the last 3 or 4 weeks. And I want to introduce you guys. Luke Bruce, co-founder. Shivam, head of projects, head of SEO. You want to have this guy in your conversation for the next half an hour. And of course, Mick Brown, marketing brand legend. Welcome, boys.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
Rightio, so let's crack on. We're all working from home. Well, there's a couple of yous actually in the office, and they're down the other end of the office. One's far end, one's the other end. So Luke and I are both at home at the moment in our home office, and we've been here for 2.5 weeks now. So it is something that's gone on longer than we thought, but we did think this could go on for quite a while. So that's why we've set ourselves up. We want to be able to share with you steel pushers some of the cool things we've been doing. So Luke, it's been a pretty good 2.5 weeks, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it hasn't been 100% smooth, but as far as everything, it's gone pretty well. I mean, we were in a really good position, probably in a better position than most to work remotely. We made some decisions back in December and January, and they were at the perfect time. So I guess we were really lucky, and not everyone's going to be in that boat, but there's certain things that we learned along the way, and I think we can really help with some of that.
And Mick, you've been pushing out and doing some good communication across the industries and across the markets. You happy with the way it's going?
Yeah, well, there's a lot to talk about at the moment. There's business owners, steel pushers out there everywhere are all going through the same thing. And you watch the news, everything's changing hourly, really. And for us to keep in front of it, we have to be out there communicating to our customers from a marketing perspective. Machines for You isn't the company that's going to basically lock ourselves down. We know from when we operated through the GFC that the best way to get through this is to push through. It's like the old racing car terminology. You go around the corner, when in doubt, power out. If you start to lose control, you put your foot down and you'll grab traction and you will actually make it out of that corner.
Yeah, so that's a really good way of us looking at it, isn't it? We like to go into the corner braking and stuff, so we see that as our planning. And then as going around the corner is just, don't look at the power pole, look at where we're going and just put the pedal down. So one of the parts we want to talk about, Shivam, our experience with remote control, remote working, and you've been a huge part of that because, you know, you're 10 years down the track of doing this with all your programmers and the team around the world.
Yeah, Steve, it comes down to back in our it comes down to back in our South Melbourne days and Port Melbourne days when I started working briefly remotely for you guys. And this is a typical time where we were on Great Ocean Road based on a small office in somewhere around Anglesey. And I started working remotely a bit. So our roots of working remotely, it was mainly dictated by having access to the right talent sometimes, having access to right people at the right moment. So we were forced into remote game way before the FaceTime and your video conferencing was around. So
yeah, and you were doing it really well with the tech side of things, and you know, you've got your programmers in the Philippines and some designers and bits and pieces. And then of course over the years, Luke, we tried it out with a few sales guys and we come unstuck a bit, didn't we?
Yeah, I mean, on the tech side of things, we've been remote since day one. I mean, Dave, our first programmer that was even here before Shivam, he was based in New Zealand, and we were designing everything, sending it to him, and he was building half of it and sending it over. But as soon as we tried to move it into sales, we hit the wall big time. So our first salesperson, because we were based in Victoria, and we tried to get them working remotely out of Queensland, and he worked remotely out of his garage fixing his car most of the time, I think.
Yeah, he liked getting his hot rod all souped up a lot more than what he did going out and visiting customers. So that one come unstuck for us, and that cost us a lot of money right back at the start, didn't it? Then we had another guy in Sydney. He was an amazing sales guy, and you know, when we were, he was living in Melbourne originally, and then he went to Sydney, and then we got him working remotely. But the guy didn't like putting kilometers on his car, didn't he? He had a new car, and of course he didn't tell us. So 3 or 4 months in, we're like, hey, how many customers have you seen? Oh, well, I don't really like traveling car, you know. I'm like, oh my God, is that really where we've got to?
Yes. So with the remote working for salespeople, you've got to have your systems in play. The systems are so much more needed for people that are dealing with customers. You know, developers, they generally run their own dev systems, whereas salespeople, they all have their own mode of operation. So you've got to have the framework that they can build on, and that's what we didn't have at the start. I think you'd agree with me there, Steve.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, we just said, rightio, you go that way. You've obviously got this experience. We think we're employing someone who's, 3-5 years down the track in account managing, and we just set them out, and then we sort of, have a chat on a Friday afternoon and go, oh, how'd you go? Oh, no, it wasn't that good out there this week. And then we'd have another go next week. So, Shivam, what do we need to start? A lot of these steel pushers have now, they might be a week or two in and they're maybe still struggling. What are some things that we did well when we had to push out and go and start and work from home?
All right, Steve, you got to look out for prep and setup. That's what everything is. And as part of prep, that's where you start going in. Who needs to operate? What hardware they need to operate with? What software are you going to communicate with? This is what it comes down to. It starts off with the environment. That includes your hardware, your software, and then you start talking about where they're going to sit. In this environment, when you will have staff working from home, do they have a place in their house? Do they have a study? Do they have a spare bedroom they can operate off? This is where it comes down to.
Yeah, that was something we did really well. They had to send in a photo on day one of their working environment. And some of them we were like, Jesus, that's a bit small, or are you going to work in there? What if this, because there was a temporary solution that's okay, but because we felt like this was going to go longer, it was like, hang on a sec, these guys should have a bit more. So Luke, you put in place the sort of our expectations in our contract, which is, I think that served us really well.
Yeah, so I think it was the Friday afternoon where we actually shot the lockdown special for steel pushers. We decided that Monday was going to be our last day in the office and everyone was going to be remote by Tuesday. So the first thing we did was put in place a remote work agreement. So admittedly, we got a template from the internet. We threw away the bits that didn't suit our business. We added some bits in that we really needed, but it just gave us the initial framework. And we knew it wasn't going to be 100% correct, but it was the framework to get started. So we got that in place. And as part of that, we said, put some time into figuring out where you're going to work at home and send us a shot of your office setup. Because you've got to, not everyone's going to have a perfect home office, but you've got to have your minimum standards. Because if you're working on a laptop and you've got your piece of toast there and you've got your coffee there and you've got a kid in the background, you can't really be dealing with customers.
Yeah, and Mick, when we're talking about families, so I think we've been good in sharing, because every now and then a kid pops up in a meeting, don't they? Yeah. That's okay.
100%. This is sort of unprecedented working from home this quickly. We were able to turn it around really, really quickly. We don't know what the government's doing in terms of closing schools. They're trying to keep them open, but they're recommending that they work from home. We understand that if we're changing your working environment, there's going to be some compromises and considerations. Absolutely, the key word here is that we are totally understanding. You guys are actually, our team and the team of our steel pushers out there are actually going the extra mile here because they're in a completely different environment. So we have to be understanding of things like pets and kids running through the background and worse.
Yeah, well, there's I think it started from a place of empathy, and we were all challenged with it and going through it. So we knew they would be going through it. The media was, bringing on the storm, and it did all come on us all very suddenly. So all of a sudden, because we got an understanding of just empathy and working with our staff, holding them accountable, I think quite a bit. It brings us in good stead. So next conversation, Shivam, seeing it through, because obviously we saw this wasn't just a short-term thing. This is if someone's working in a little office and they've got no pictures or it's really dark, you know, we've got to start bringing it to life, because if these people are going to be doing that 40 hours a week and for weeks on end, you know, what are some of the things we did, you know, seeing it through?
Yeah, so it kind of started off at setting up the minimum standards. One of the minimum standards we established in the environment and in the tech side was availability of a decent desk and a chair. And it could be the dining table being moved across or whichever be the way, but having your environment set up and having a decent internet connection. And that means either supporting the staff which didn't have the right connection with the portable hotspots or any mobile data coverage or whatever be the requirement, ensuring that connectivity is there, hardware is there, and then software is there to run them with, which is where your communication suites, the teleconferencing, the chat systems and all these come into picture. So we did prep up all this beforehand. And part of that was because we were operating with some of the remote staff in the tech side and other areas. So our experience from that came in pretty handy when it came to moving our Gold Coast staff to this.
Yep, exactly. And Luke, talk to me about, you know, like our leadership group here. How have we had to evolve, you know, making these big decisions, and we're not all sitting around a boardroom together, you know? How have you found that?
Well, it does put you out of your comfort zone, because it's much easier to communicate when you are sitting around a table and you can read body language a lot better. And that's why the video conferencing is so necessary. You can't do it purely over a phone, or you're going to struggle a lot more just over a phone. So getting things like video conferencing set up so you can do these roundtable meetings, using the video conferencing for doing stand-ups with your staff every morning, because one of the important things working remotely is maintaining work standards. So, for example, we did it with you've got to be in your office uniforms. We don't care that you're working from home. You can't be in your tracksuit pants. You've got to be in your workwear, because it's about getting your head into the mind state of, right, I know I'm at home, but I'm actually at work. And it's the little things like that that can actually make a difference. And it sets us up as a leadership team as well. You've got to lead from the front. If you're not doing it as a boss, you can't expect your staff to adapt to the new remote work. So
100%. Yeah, I've had to touch up on using the Zoom system, you know, and I know my skills in it weren't as good as what they should be, but I've had to absolutely crack on and get that part right. And I think staff have seen me doing it and starting to teach them some different ways of how to use it, and now they've all adopted it really well. So Mick, what about chunking tasks? Because how does it feel when you've just got so many people coming to you? You know, you run a pretty big department there. So what, you're getting your staff to chunk, you know, ideas to you?
Yeah, so when you're in an office environment, it's easy to walk over to somebody else's desk and ask them a question, and comes a lot of distraction with that. And certainly if you're in an open plan office like I've got here behind me, it can actually end up distracting the whole team. There's a small element of that if you're on a group chat that you can, if somebody does throw in the latest news article from Scott Morrison into the group chat, it can sort of affect the productivity there. But I think it's about blocking and scheduling your time and sort of chunking your tasks into those blocks of time. Thinking about what the morning looks like, thinking about what the afternoon looks like, setting up your goals, having your KPIs, and then having accountability at the end of those blocks. You know, you say,
hey, Steel Pushers, we're going to have to jump to a break, but we'll see you shortly.
For me, everything I do, I've got to try and achieve this level, and I really felt like I'm at this level now.
The whole point of this for me was to unlock more potential. How do you go to the next level again, and how do you keep stepping up, even just incrementally from here on in?
I want to see what I'm capable of.
You know, I'm in business. I felt like I was kind of stuck in a bit of a rut, and wanted to get to the next level.
So I felt in areas of my life I wasn't showing up, and I wanted somebody to hold me accountable to that.
I've got big ambitions on what I want to achieve, and if I can't be a good leader, it won't happen.
No idea really what we're in for, and I expect it to be challenging, I expect it to be tough. But if we don't have that, then we're not going to move forward.
2 40-kilo sandbags and a 10-kilo dumbbell.
It's
been amazing to have 10, 12 guys around the country plugging in each week who are going through similar challenges.
Focus on your breath. Focus on your breath. Up to the pole, up to the pole. Keep moving, come on, don't let go now. Don't let go now, Cole, don't let go. Not now, not now, not now, not now, not now. Yeah. Yeah. Come on. Up. Yeah. Keep moving, don't give up now, you're too close. It has to fucking happen now. This is the point.
Set yourself up for your 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, even up to 100. If you can define who you want to be now, and then work towards it.
Welcome back, all you steel pushers. I'm sure you're finding this interesting. It's so exciting for me today to have, some of our leadership team on here. These guys have got a world and wealth of experience. So brilliant to have the conversation, and we help it. Gives you a couple of key points, a couple of nuggets that you can use over the next day or next week, So the next part of the conversation, we want to talk about behaviors that create success, which is a topic that I love because I like learning little hacks that are going to improve us. So what are the things we should be looking at there, Shivam?
Well, it starts off with how you operate in the actual office environment. How do you greet people when you walk in? That's part of your behavior, right? You head out for lunch, you greet people, or you actually check in with at least your boss or your colleague. You come back from lunch and you have a check-in, usually with someone, and you leave from office building in the evening at 5:30 and you have a check-in. So that's what you have to replicate, exactly the same behavior. Whether you're operating remotely or whether you're operating under the same roof, this is the behavior which keeps us running like a clockwork. And that's
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right, and I think we've been very good at doing that. So, Luke, what are some of the things we've been doing over the last few weeks?
So the virtual stand-ups first thing, and the penalties for being late to a meeting. I think the penalties have worked really well. So we've been running 10 burpees if you're late to a meeting, because when you're meeting online, it's so much more evident when someone's not there, and it is working really well, and it does give everyone a little bit of a laugh watching someone else do 10 burpees on Zoom. It's a great thing to see someone's head popping up and down. But that's worked really well for the team, and it keeps the spirits up, because you'll find operating remotely, people get disconnected because we're missing that social side of work. And that's what you've got to do. You've got to concentrate on the wins, because there's going to be problems. Cracks are going to show up. The systems that worked in your office that would be plastered over by a couple of people having a conversation or swapping an email or two may not work when you're doing them remotely. So don't beat yourself or your staff up about those. Look at what you need to adjust in your systems and spend your time working on that, and you'll find your business will actually come out more robust than when you started.
Yeah, I think, that's been a big part of the success of it is talking about the downtimes too. Like if you're looking around the Zoom chats and, you got 8 people there and someone's looking a bit flat, have the conversation, go there with them. Because for me, it's never about a bad day. If I hear someone say, I had a bad day, I'm like, what? A whole 8 hours? What the hell happened? Why don't you have a bad call? Why don't you have a bad hour? Anything longer than a bad hour, you got to bring yourself out of it, but we've got to be, as a team, be able to bring it out of other people too. And I think that's what we've been good at doing, and supporting each other and helping. Mick, what about these exercise breaks where we've sent them down the road and around the block?
It's important to keep active. Some of our team are operating out of quite small rooms and their bedrooms, and in an office environment, it's quite a social environment. So you are up and around, and we as a leadership team would go to the local gym after work and get your exercise in. But if you're not there with somebody else, and there's not somebody else there to sort of motivate you, and as soon as you put that headset down and you cock off for the day, and then it's straight into making the kids dinner, you start to lose some of the important parts of your routine. And at Machines for You, we really believe in keeping yourself healthy, body and mind.
Yeah, and I think it works. You can't just be sitting down for 8 hours. Or, that's why we've got stand-up desks. Some are standing up, some are sitting down. Then they go for a walk around the block. Go and chase the dog down the road. Do whatever it is, but just get active and still have those, juices going through your body that actually, create happiness and actually give you some spark and some energy flow. So, Shivam, next topic, leading from the front. And I know you're very good at doing this. Over the years, you've adapted it and really worked well with a good team. So what are some key things that we can be doing, the steel pushers can be doing out there?
Yeah, so when it comes to managing your staff, and especially with this change of perception or change of behavior, the way we're operating, one of the first things you got to do is lead from the front. So take the example of working with the video. Like Luke said before, it is something which conveys the emotion. And this is what lets you pick the body language and everything. So you've got to make sure that every call you jump in, you insist on having a video call. And technology is not a barrier in this day and age. You got all the way from FaceTime to Skype to Zoom to no matter what. So lead from that. And the second one with that is the discipline of yourself running it. So if you've got a staff meeting, you've got to be there present as one of the first hosts and make sure that everyone is in. Once this behavior is installed in first few hours or days or weeks, it carries on then.
Yeah, and Luke, you're absolutely right, Shivam. Luke, it's not just business as usual. We want to improve, don't we? That's your mindset. I love it.
It's not business as usual. It's got to be business better than usual because it's tougher to do things remotely. So you've got to expect yourself to up your game and expect your staff to maintain their discipline and up their game. So one of the silver linings to this whole thing is, as a manager, if you master this, you're going to come out better off. Being able to work remotely with people gives you access to so many different opportunities. If you need a designer, you're not limited to the people in your local area. You can now hire someone off Upwork and you can manage them remotely. You can get a remote salesperson in a different state that you may not have had someone in before, and you can manage them remotely once you master this. So it's not all bad.
No, well, it hasn't been all bad for us. Our call times have never been better. And our communication and our sales. Speaking of our communication, Mick, you've got this philosophy of doubling down at the moment.
Yeah, with everything going on, there's opportunity for us to talk to our customers more and more. But we also need to make sure that we're getting in front of our customers because there's so much noise out there. We've got the philosophy and the marketing campaign running at the moment that we're all in this together. So having those conversations from the sales team's perspective about, how everybody is doing is just as important as us keeping our customers updated. As Machines for You, we've got a responsibility to be somewhat of a trusted advisor and a resource, because what we're able to do is we're always looking for the little bits of information and news out there that relates directly to our customers. We advertise all of our site at the moment, the $150,000 rebate that all of our business, all of our buyers can get, just to sort of stimulate with that stimulus the machines that our sellers are selling.
Yeah, well, we're always trying to help the industry through the situation. And that's something I've been doing a lot of, is talking to a lot more customers myself. So I like to check in and know what's going on with customers. And I think that's been really good for us to understand some of their concerns, some of their needs. When you get the director on the phone and they actually go out and talk to these guys, they love it and they just want to share it and they feel part of something together where they're not so isolated. So Shivam, culture, how we manage to keep our culture in amongst this time?
Yeah, so it's a good one, Steve. We operate a very vibrant team here, and you see a sale or a win coming in this floor and the whole office jumps up. And that's been one of our initial concerns, how we're going to be able to replicate that. But one of the best things which came out was we have a session, a video conferencing stand-up session, if you think about it, which is right towards the end of the day. And one of the key questions which they host, in some cases, sometimes it's you, Steve, and sometimes you, Mick. One of the key questions these guys ask is, what was your win for the day? This question alone brings that culture of celebration back. The other one we are looking at is replicating some of our fun activities which we used to do physically in the office. In our office, on a Friday, on a good week with the good outcomes, 4 o'clock would be celebration hour, last hour of the day. That's what we are looking at, replicating now everyone from their home. And this could be, walk in with your floral shirt, with your beer in hand, or whichever way it works out. I think this is one of the first weeks we're going to try that this Friday, isn't it, Mick?
Yeah, 100%. And I've actually seen a lot of people doing their virtual drinks on a Friday afternoon. A lot of businesses are adopting that. It seems like the first idea to come up whenever we're talking about morale, remote morale, Steve.
Any chance to get on the good old Hawaiian shirt, Shivam? A little ripper,
yeah.
Nice, beautiful yellow number. Luke's in his lilac one, and Mick in his pink one. That would be a funny scene. So with great change comes the opportunity to improve. So what are some of the cool things that Steel Pushers over the next couple of weeks could implement, Luke?
Well, this is the thing. Change has been thrust upon us. And, it happens occasionally, and this is probably one of the biggest changes we're ever going to see in business in our lifetimes, maybe. So how you take it on and what you choose to implement is really going to define the direction of your business over the next 12 months and then 10 years after that. So if you're all stuck at home, get on your CRM. If you don't have a CRM, implement one. If you do have one and it's not up to scratch, clean the data. Get on your email marketing and don't just push your products. Ask your customers, what can we do for you? Can we sell any used equipment on behalf of you at the moment? Can we service equipment while you've got downtime so it's not going to cost you? Really get in and double down with your customers and communicate twice as much, because they're all like yourselves at the moment. They're worried about what's going to happen in their business. So now's the time to adapt some leverage tools. If you've got an old PABX phone system that's tied to your desks at work, jump on Zoom. They've got an excellent phone system that works in Australia. You can set it up in 24 hours. You can have your phone lines and your 1300 lines going straight to your customers, to your team's mobiles, going to their laptops, going to their desktops, working across Australia. And it's really easy. Sorry, Steve.
Shivam, talk to me about what you've seen for the behaviour of searches for used on the site this week.
Yeah, so this is a very interesting one. As soon as 2 weeks back, when this whole coronavirus thing came in and it had a hit and the government started shutting down various elements, we saw a downturn in traffic, and naturally people were panicking and everything. However, 2 weeks in, yesterday, Monday, 30th of March, everything changed. We have seen an upswing in traffic which wasn't there for last 2 weeks. We're seeing not only just the traffic, we're seeing people inquiring. We've got buyers inquiring on the machines at the moment at the same levels as first week of March. And this is really interesting phenomena. That means the economy is gearing up and working different ways. You would think the state's border shutdown would lead to things stopping? No. People are figuring out different ways to deliver goods or services or value to their customers.
Of course, and we've seen more searches for used, haven't we, Mick? You're about to put some communication out over the next week about, we've got to find more used gear because buyers are looking for it. And a heap of these Steel Pushers are all sitting with some used gear down the backs of these factories, showrooms. They've got to get out there, scratch around and go and take some photos, sneak back into your office, take these photos, take these videos, get that used equipment online.
Some of the conversations that we're having start off with, look, I only actually deal in new gear. And it's not until you try and start asking the questions that they realise, I've actually got all those service machines down the back that I've been sort of under the top that I forgot about, that can help generate cash flow and revenue, and can also be an opportunity to talk to customers about the new gear anyway. I believe that we are about to kick into everybody settling into this work from home, and they're going to start marketing and start trying to sell again.
Steel Pushers, time is absolutely flowing. When you get a few people on the show, man, it flies. So we're going to bring this to you on a weekly basis, every Wednesday, 1 p.m. Thank you. Buy better.
Sell faster.